Ryan Reynolds thought he could control the narrative, but the unsealed files just hit the internet, and the level of panic behind the scenes is reaching a fever pitch. Fans aren't just watching the drama anymore. They're digging through the receipts and finding out that the golden couple isn't who they claim to be. The facade didn't just crack, it shattered when a federal judge officially closed the case, leaving Blake Lively with almost nothing. The millions spent on legal fees resulted in a victory so small, it feels like a total humiliation. This wasn't supposed to happen, and now the fallout is threatening to take down both of their careers for good. The strategy was simple: frame every defeat as a success. Blake's team put out statements claiming a massive win over Justin Baldoni, but the actual court ruling tells a much darker story. The judge awarded her the absolute bare minimum, rejecting her demands for triple damages and punitive awards. He explicitly stated there was zero proof of malice, effectively calling out the entire narrative she tried to build. She walked into that courtroom asking for everything and walked out with barely enough to cover a fraction of her costs. It's a classic PR spin that fans saw through instantly, and the backlash is only getting louder. One of the most shocking revelations to come out of this mess is that Blake signed on to the project without even reading the book. Think about that for a second. This was her massive return to drama, the role meant to prove she could carry a serious film, and she didn't even bother to open the novel the internet had been obsessed with for years. She jumped in because she was told it would be huge, but the second she stepped on set, the power struggle began. She didn't want to be an actress, she wanted total control, and Justin Baldoni was the man standing in her way. It was a recipe for disaster from the start. The leaked messages show that Blake didn't just have a disagreement with her director. She reportedly entered the project already hating him. Before cameras even started rolling, she was trashing him to her friends, her trainer, and even Ryan Reynolds. It wasn't about his behavior on set, it was a preformed story she had created in her head. She had already assigned the roles, and Justin was the villain before he even said action. This wasn't a working relationship that went south. It was an ambush from day one, and the industry is finally seeing how she operates when she decides someone is an easy target to be replaced. Then there's the weight controversy that nearly ruined Baldoni's reputation. Blake claimed he body-shamed her, painting a picture of a cruel director making offensive remarks about her post-pregnancy body. But when the discovery files were unsealed, the truth was much more logical and much less scandalous. Baldoni has a documented history of back problems and spinal issues. He simply asked his trainer how much Blake weighed so he could prepare to lift her safely for a scene. It wasn't an insult. It was a basic safety precaution for a man with a literal broken back, but Blake turned it into a full persecution story to win over the public. The script itself proved that the scene in question wasn't some new addition meant to mock her. It had been there since the very first draft. You can't claim someone invented a weight-based insult when the physical requirements of the role were established before filming ever started. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it looks more like a deliberate invention to gain public sympathy. This pattern of taking normal professional interactions and twisting them into dark personal attacks is exactly what has fans turning on her. It raises massive questions about how she handles any form of conflict or professional boundary in the workplace. To understand why Blake reacts this way, you have to look at how she was raised in the heart of the Hollywood machine. Her mother was a talent manager, her sister is a famous acting coach, and she was essentially raised at Disneyland. She was the youngest, treated like royalty, and by all accounts, rarely ever heard the word no. When you grow up in a world where image is everything, and you are the center of the universe, perception becomes your reality. This legal battle wasn't just about a movie. It was a defense of a carefully managed persona that she's been perfecting since she was a child, and now it's failing. The industry receipts are starting to pile up, and they show a lonely path behind her. It's an open secret that Blake struggled to keep friendships from her past projects. Not a single person from the Gossip Girl cast is still close with her, not one. Even the sisterhood of the Traveling Pants cast, who initially offered a quick word of support, mostly went silent as the details of this lawsuit became public. When you've been in the industry for decades and only have one lasting friend left, people start to wonder if you're the common denominator in every bridge that burns. The silence from her former co-stars is absolutely deafening. In perhaps the most desperate move of the entire legal war, Blake tried to subpoena the bank records of small content creators. She couldn't fathom that regular people could look at the evidence and dislike her for free. She assumed Justin Baldoni must be paying people to criticize her online, even targeting creators with barely 300 followers. It was a paranoid hunt for a paid smear campaign that didn't exist. By going after random people on the internet, she didn't repair her image. She made herself look spiteful, disconnected from reality, and genuinely terrifying to anyone with an opinion that doesn't align with her PR. This move sent a clear message to the fans. You can't think for yourself. By accusing tiny YouTube channels of being on a payroll, she essentially told her audience that their research and conclusions were invalid. The irony is that most of these creators were already questioning her long before any lawsuit was filed. They remembered the old interviews, like the one where she mocked a reporter for congratulating her on her pregnancy. Public opinion didn't need a payout to turn sour. It just needed to see her act like herself, and no amount of legal pressure or bank record searches was going to reverse that growing damage. Ryan Reynolds wasn't just a supportive husband in this, he was an active participant using his massive influence as a weapon. Unsealed files reveal him sending what can only be described as essays to Sony executives. He was demanding they use his rewrites for the movie during an active writer's strike, completely bypassing the professional protocols. Even his own agents were telling him to calm down and step back, but he wouldn't listen. This wasn't about protecting his wife. It was about swinging his weight around to ensure their version of the story stayed on top, no matter who got stepped on or what rules were broken. The way Ryan speaks to people depends entirely on how much he needs from them. Before filming began, his texts to Justin Baldoni were full of extreme praise, classic love bombing. He told Justin he adored him and would do anything for him. But once you're inside the circle and stop being useful, the act changes instantly. Martha Stewart, who lived near them, once publicly said Ryan isn't the guy you see on screen. She described him as quiet, distant, and capable of turning his charm on and off like a faucet. Beneath the nicest guy in Hollywood brand is a very different, much more calculating operator. Martha Stewart even joked about Ryan's so-called mafia connections, and while it was a laugh, there's a darker truth beneath the humor. Ryan is known for being a person you don't want to cross in this town. If he dislikes you, he doesn't just move on. He uses his work and his platform to mock you. Just ask Wesley Snipes or anyone else who ended up on his bad side. Most people in the industry just have to sit there and take it because his influence is so vast. But when that influence is used to crush a director who is just trying to finish a project, the public starts to see the nice guy routine as a mask. The relationship between Blake and Ryan is now being viewed as an unusual ecosystem of constant PR hype. Every coordinated outfit, every paparazzi stroll through New York, and every over-the-top Instagram post feels like a performance. Especially the recent photos of Blake leaping onto Ryan's back. It felt like a direct, defiant response to the body-shaming allegations. They are trying so hard to prove they are the perfect happy couple that it's actually achieving the opposite effect. It feels exhausting to watch, and fans are starting to wonder who they're really performing for at this point in their careers. Strategically, dragging Taylor Swift into this mess was one of the biggest blunders they could have made. Blake placed Taylor on a witness list, which led to the threat of the world's biggest pop star being subpoenaed into a messy legal war. Suddenly, the public got a glimpse of the final text exchange between the two friends. Taylor reportedly told Blake that she was speaking to her like it was a corporate negotiation and asked where her friend had gone. That was their last known conversation. Blake allegedly tried to pressure a global icon into supporting her, and Taylor did what she does best. She walked away. This fallout with Taylor highlights a recurring theme in Blake's life. Her friendships often seem transactional. When people realize they are being used for a PR boost or a legal shield, they drift away. Taylor saw it, the Gossip Girl cast saw it, and the industry is seeing it now. Losing an ally like Taylor Swift is devastating because she is the ultimate power player in entertainment. To push her away through pure entitlement shows just how deep the disconnection from reality goes. Blake is left wondering why she's isolated, still convinced that everyone else is the problem, while her circle continues to shrink. Now we're looking at the actual wreckage. Big studios are reportedly keeping their distance from Blake because of how unstable this production became. No studio head wants legal teams hovering over every creative decision or a lead actress who pushes budgets into the red for her own ego. The compliance nightmare that follows her is making her a risky bet for future projects. While she's now a member of the Producers Guild, it's only because of a letter Justin Baldoni was allegedly pressured into sending. She's producing her own projects now because fewer people are eager to cast her in theirs after this drama. Ryan seems to have smelled the smoke faster than Blake. He's already shifting his strategy, lining up projects where he produces from behind the scenes but barely appears on camera. He's stepping back to let the heat die down, while Blake continues to double down on a version of events that the public has already rejected. The difference in their approaches is telling. One is trying to survive, while the other is still convinced she's the hero of a story that ended months ago. The power dynamic in the golden couple is shifting as the cracks in their shared narrative become impossible for even them to ignore. The sequel to It Ends With Us is officially dead, and the damage to the brand is permanent. Colleen Hoover's name took a hit, and even the younger actors on the project now carry the stain of this controversy. Blake's choices didn't just affect her. They damaged an entire circle of people who were tied to the film. Sony has no realistic path to revive it because the public association is too toxic. One person's refusal to share the spotlight on a project that was never truly hers destroyed a potential franchise that could have been worth hundreds of millions of dollars in future revenue and growth. If Blake wanted to fix this, the first step would be a sincere apology, but insiders say that's never going to happen. Apologizing would mean accepting responsibility, and that's something she doesn't seem built for. She would have to admit she acted emotionally and failed to consider the people she hurt. Even if you believe her side, the facts show that Justin Baldoni listened to her concerns, apologized, and adjusted his behavior during production. He showed accountability, while she turned a workplace disagreement into a federal lawsuit that backfired on everyone involved and exposed her tactics. The only realistic advice for her now is to disappear. Like others who have faced massive public backlash, she needs to step out of the spotlight for years. She needs to work behind the curtain where her name isn't front and center, because right now her brand is synonymous with frustration and ego. Her businesses are already feeling the pinch. The hair care brand and the alcohol line are struggling after the disastrous movie premiere. Naming drinks after characters in a movie about domestic violence was a misfire, so spectacular it's almost hard to believe it happened under the watch of professional PR. At the core of the problem is a deep lack of self-awareness. Blake seems to live in a bubble where Ryan tells her she's incredible every day, and they can just switch off the comments to ignore the world. They glide past the criticism, but Hollywood has a long memory. The unsealed files, the text essays, and the script pages that challenged her claims are all public now. What remains is the image of a woman who tried to ruin a director's career and instead set fire to her own reputation. She's holding the shovel, and she's still digging, wondering why no one is stepping into the ashes with her. Celebrity influence only works until the receipts start stacking up. Ryan Reynolds could pressure executives and get people dropped from major agencies, but he couldn't stop the truth from leaking out of those court documents. Public opinion doesn't care about your mafia connections or your coordinated outfits. It cares about what actually happened on that set. For the first time in a long time, Blake Lively has been told no by a federal judge, and by the audience she spent years cultivating. The noise of the PR machine has finally been drowned out by reality, and she has no choice but to hear it.